Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I will be talking about the Erasmus Mundus Master Scholarship. Specifically, this talk will be directed towards the new Erasmus scholars. So especially as they prepare towards the opening semester in September. So I think based on my experience and what I've seen from a lot of people in Europe and as well some of the experience shared by my friends and also some colleagues. So I think it is very important that I share one or two information with you guys. Of course, this video might not be really new to some people, but I think you should take your time to go through all of it. I think you can gain one or two information about preparing for the opening semester. I think without further ado, let's get started. So the next slide I will be showing you guys is congratulations, because this is very important. The Erasmus Mundus Master Scholarship, as we can see every year, it becomes so competitive, especially applicants from Nigeria are like increasing every year. I think it's very important to say congratulations to everyone that have gotten to this stage of the Erasmus Mundus Masters program. So the next slide, I will be talking about the visa, finances, and as well document. So one thing I will be sharing with you guys is the fact that you should start early. So start early, make sure you get your documents ready, especially the transcript and the certificate. We already know, I think I've seen some new scholars that are currently in their final year. So probably you've applied with your last year's result, especially probably you are studying a 5 years course and you applied with your 4 years results. So I think it is very important you make sure other results are available, because it is very important for you to get your visa and as well during the registrations in school. As well, the legalization of document. This is very important because I think some people going to Spain, probably Italy, and some other countries as your opening semester, I think they always demand legalization of this document. So I think make sure you really found out all this information. If legalization is very important for your first country of mobility. So I think this is very important. So here we have birth certificate translation. So I think this is also very important, especially people going to France, because for you to be able to apply to something like cruise, so this is like a government organization, so they provide accommodation subsidy. So I think you are going to be needing birth certificate translation. So for your countries as well, make sure you check if this is very important. And a way of checking is for you to speak with previous scholars, endeavor to ask all these documents. And also, of course, your program masters coordinator would have been in touch with you. So make sure you ask all these questions and of course, I know they must have start to send you all these important documents. As well, finances. So finances is very important, especially people that do not really, that probably you are on low budget. So I think it is very important, if you are asking information from people, make sure you ask about the finances. Probably you are going to take a loan, or probably you reach out to a lot of people to help you with all these expenses, especially as related to visa expenses, especially for those people that are going to do legalization. I think it is a bit expensive. So I think you should reach out and know what you are expected to do. Legalization, like I already mentioned, the flight fee. So I think this is also important. Make sure you gather your flight fee as early as possible, because based on my experience, I always book my flight like maybe like 1 month or 2 months before my flight date, because it gives me the opportunity to be able to benefit on low flight fee. So I think it is important you book your flight like a month ahead. So it is always cheap. So because if you wait till September, of course, it will become so expensive, and it is not sounding quite well. Yeah, best certificate like translation, accommodation, and your stipend. So all these are very important. Best certificate, the money you'll be spending on this. Translation, okay, money on translation, I don't think that is expensive. Accommodation, I think if you are going to, of course, they will not start paying you your stipend at the first, maybe at the beginning of September. It is until you arrive. So you have to make plan on how you are going to secure your accommodation, how you're going to source for fund for that. So, and lastly, your stipend will arrive, I think around, depends on the program, probably the middle of September. And for some program, like my program, for instance, they started paying at the end of September. So I think it is important that you know all this information specific to your program. Yeah, the next slide, I will be talking about the cultural shock, of course, in terms of the language. Yeah, so I think this is a pretty common phenomenon, like in all countries, especially if you're an international student. So I think the language is always pretty difficult, especially if you are just going to a new country for the first time. So the language, you have to speak to people, especially like people going to France, they are like, oh, we don't speak English. Everything is bonjour, bonjour, bonjour every time. So I think you have to make sure, I think I have some recommendation in the coming slide about the language. Also the food, make sure you pack all your food. I think probably I can make a video about food and stuff like that. So transport as well. So you can start to like check the surroundings from Google Map. So you can try to prepare it, especially if you already know your accommodation, the place of accommodation. Also, but so make sure you prepare for something like this. So because at times for, of course, you are going to make friends with your colleagues. So I think that is recommendable. And as well, make sure you start to like form good relationship with your friend back home, because this is also important. At times you might feel like, oh, I'm really bored. So make sure you like cultivate good relationship with people. Next slide. Yeah. So I think this is one of the most important. Of course, getting visa is important, but yeah, what I've seen over the past is that people are not always prepared for the workload here. Normally the Nigerian style, we are not really used to a lot of work, though we do a lot of work, especially, okay, I study law, I study engineering, I study this, that. So, but the European standard is a bit different, especially if you are going to countries like, let's say, Italy, France, and also like all those pretty strong educational system. So yeah, in terms of the teaching style, it is based on PowerPoint, of course, every school. So you have to get used to this. Nobody will come to class to dictate notes to you. And of course, you have to cultivate the habit of jotting, take notes, because at times, like we all know, lecturers in our country, they also use that kind of method in which they explain, and you're expected to create a lot of notes from there. Of course, one thing you can also do is to like maybe record the lectures, because you really have to pay attention to the fact that they might not be audible enough, because they are not like the traditional English speaker. So they kind of like have some accent, so which might not really be really interesting to hear for the first time. So I think you can try to like record the lectures, so which will be really good. You can play it back when you get your accommodation. So also you have to prepare for quizzes. So quiz can just come and just say, okay, I think we should have some quiz assignments. So you are going to be, you should be expecting something like this, of course. Reports, lab reports, and also terminal reports, or probably people in the art discipline. So you are going to be faced with this. And also people in the STEM. So these reports, they are very important. Like we all know, Erasmus program is just like a research-based program in which you are going to be taught like fundamentals of research. Also, you are going to conduct a lot of experiment, and you will be expected to produce reports like a standard report. Yeah. And as well, finally, the exams. So Yeah, so these are like the recommendation, Duolingo for the language, for you to learn language. You can use the app. So yeah, I use the app to learn a lot of word. You really, I don't think in terms of the pronunciation, because the Duolingo pronunciation are not always correct. So, but one thing you really want to pay attention to here is the fact that you should try to learn the vocabulary. Just know, okay, if they say etude, I know it is study. So just in French, of course. So just know all those words. So just know, okay, when the teacher says this, I know this is this. So I think this is very, very important. So when you come, even though when you come, you see some word, they will not be new to you, of course. So I think um, trying to learn from Duolingo is quite nice. Also, recheck your course content from the website. Yes. Of course, we've gotten the scholarship. Some people might have even forgotten what they will be doing in the opening semester. This is very important. So if you know that there are still like one or two courses there that you've never seen before, it is very, very important that you learn. So this is where I have something here. Now learn. I know some of us might have taken some online courses so that we can be selected. It is not really that we are like, okay, don't let me say this statement. So it is not really that, okay, we do all these online courses so as to be able to boost our application so that we can be selected. It is not like a don't let me real like in quote. So here we have to cultivate the habit of now checking. Of course, now you are not going to be getting any certificate. Go to YouTube, check the course content. That thing that probably you took just an online course on it. Try to check it again and take like some YouTube lessons and try to check the fundamental, especially people going um towards like chemistry program or engineering program. Make sure you check and learn the fundamental, because when you get because in an Erasmus Mundus program class, you see that like there could be some course that maybe like 80% of the class, they already know what the lecturer is doing, and you are just coming okay from a third world country, and you might not like have any understanding of what the lecturer is saying. So it is very important that you use this period to like cover some little ground. Okay, now if they discuss this course, okay, fine. I think now I know a little about it, at least I know a little bit about it. So I think this is very important. So it will not be as if, oh, this should be like a first time of learning stuff like this. Like in my program, like in the first semester, we have like organic chemistry, and I come from an engineering background, and I'm expected to learn organic chemistry. And what I did beforehand is that, okay, what I did was to like check. I asked like a senior scholar in the program, what are we expected to know? So I saw all the handout, and I see that, oh, these are the stuff I'll be facing. So I have to like read beforehand. So when we resume in September, so all what the professor was saying was not new to me. So I already know what to expect, stuff like that. So it makes the organic chemistry not to be so difficult for me. So I think this is very important for you guys. Next, yeah, report writing. This is very important because, to be sincere with you, I think at times if you're in a class, you know, one thing you really want to pay attention to is the fact that if you are making groups, because they can tell you that, okay, we have labs, your labs will be coming up next week. You guys try to form a group. One thing you really have to make sure you pay attention to is the fact that if they pick you to a particular group, probably, okay, you guys say, okay, yeah, guys, let's try to work together. Make sure you know like how to do all these things in terms of writing reports. Make sure you know all the qualities that you can put in trying to come up with a good report. Because if you like do some report with some guys and you did not do it very well, you just see that in the next like practical work, they feel like, no, 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 I don't want to work with you. Yeah, they might not tell you to your face, but they can feel like, oh, no, 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 like, because I've seen a lot of situations in previous semester, when some colleagues complained to me that this also person left me for another group or stuff like that. So I think you really want to pay attention. Of course, they will have to leave because they do not want to get a bad score, and they will not forgive any bad reports. Yeah, they will give you a very low mark. So I think it's very important you know how to like put in a good report. Try to check, especially in terms of citation and referencing software. So make sure you know how to do those things, because when you come in September, nobody will start to try to tell you, have you heard about citation? To do reference? No. So you reply, of course, I've done all these things and I can do it perfectly. So from there, okay, they will have confidence in you that, okay, I think you should be in our group and stuff like that. I think this is very important. Also paraphrasing too. So like in terms of citation and referencing, you should know something like Mendeley. Mendeley is quite good. Also paraphrasing to I think Qbot. Yeah, Qbot is good. Also, lastly, plagiarism. So you really want to avoid this, because you take, for instance, if you are in a group of students in which they have always been writing all their report from, like, there's no element of plagiarism. You are coming from a third world country that they don't really care, in quotes, about plagiarism. So I think this will not be really good. So make sure you know how to paraphrase. When you read stuff, make sure you know how to paraphrase. So I know you can do this because, of course, you must have written your motivation letter yourself. So I think if you're able to do that and come up with a convincing motivation letter, I think you should be able to come up with a good report writing. So I think that is that about report writing. Very important. Please have this in mind, because at some point in time that will become your reality. So I think this is very important, very, very important, because you are going to have last semester we wrote about 14 reports, 14 experimental reports, and that means like they give us like 10 days to submit to report, like a lot of deadlines that you have to be active. So, and this also depends on your grade as well. So you really don't want to have a bad grade. So I think this is also very important. So make sure you check all these elements of report writing. Yeah, programming. Yeah, this is also very critical. Yeah, very critical for guys in the STEM program, especially people in engineering, like Dances or this PICO or and other programs like that. Make sure if you check the course content and you see all these programming word there, make sure you learn how to do all these things. Python, MATLAB, especially MATLAB. MATLAB is very important. If you are going to ePyco, yeah, you have to know all these things because you will be doing it yourself, especially if it is like individual report and nobody is going to like, okay, fine, let me share my report with you. No, you shouldn't even be doing something like that. So I think this is very important. Make sure you learn all these things and you're able to do it. So don't let them come and start trying to tell you, okay, uh make these I don't know how to do this, I don't know, just I don't know how to write this function in MATLAB and stuff like that. So make sure you know it. Take your time. Probably you're going to be spending like 2 hours a day to watch YouTube and also write some code yourself. So when you get back in September, all these things, man, you don't think we I don't learn this thing. No, you know, be like taken by surprise. So make sure you know how to do this, especially MATLAB, very important, also Python. So yeah, lastly, the grades. Yeah, this is one of like the most baffling part, because at times if you put in the work, this is the reality, because I must tell you, it is what I've seen. So it is what I've seen. So basically, these are like the real. I think 20. They use 20. Your grade is always over 20 in most European countries. I think Italy use over 30. Poland guys, I think they use 5. Probably in Spain they use 10. I'm not sure, but I'm sure about these 5 in Poland, 30 in 30 in Italy, French, and other Belgium, all these institutions. I think Czech Republic use over 5. So I think all these countries they use, especially France, 20. Everything is 20. Everything you do is over 20. Even your final grade over 20. So this part, make sure you like at some point, because at times the Erasmus program is really intensive that you really just have to pass. Like you just have to, oh, I just have to pass. Because I had a lot of cases in my class in which a lot of them had to like repeat the course. Probably they did not get the required score. So they had to repeat the exam so that they can cross to the next semester of mobility. So I think, though, of course, you have to chase a very good score, but at some point, when the work gets so big that what you'll be thinking will be like, I just, why all these things so bulky or stuff like that. But one thing I really want you to have in mind is that these grades are not like a representation of your ability, because I could recall when in the opening semester, the professor that is the coordinator of my program wrote on the board, she drew a curve on the board. He said, you see, this downward path is when you're in the fourth semester because your confidence is going to drop. So when you move to the next semester of mobility, your confidence is going to rise back because you would have gained all the tough competence here in France. And of course, that was exactly the reality, because she was talking from experience anyway. So I think, so whatever grade you get in your opening semester, you shouldn't take that as a representation of your ability. Of course, it doesn't matter, wow, why did I get so low score? Oh, and I have first class in Nigeria. Why am I not able to get 19 over 20? Why am I not able to get 18? Why? Or especially those of us that do get first class, all these 5.0, stuff like that. Or you have friends in the US, they had 4.0 over 4.0, stuff like that. But in Europe, it might be like you might feel, because I could recall when I was in France, a friend told me that a friend, I think it was like an what's this scholar, PTDF scholar in France. So he told me that, wow, like this was like his first time in his life, and he had like a first class in chemistry from University of Ibadan in Nigeria. So he told me that, wow, that he had this, he has never had this zero in any chemistry course in his life. That he did it, like I think it was like a test, I don't know, like he was telling me that his position in the class, they were 30 in the class and it was the 25th. Like his position was 25th, as in, it was like, wow. So he doesn't know anything, like, but as time goes by, he kept on rising to the class, that he even rose almost at the top of the class. So I think at some point when the semester starts, so you don't have to feel bad, probably you are getting some score. So just make sure you put a lot of effort and stuff like that. I know at the end you really have your desired score, but at the starting there is always like new, and also you face a lot of challenges. Okay, probably you are taking transportation, and it is a bit, because at times when I get to the metro, I feel like, I hope I'm not going to get lost today and stuff like that, because it is always a bit confusing and stuff like that. So make sure that you don't get so bothered about the grade. Of course, you have to get bothered, especially if you are looking towards PhD in Europe. Also, you have to, especially if you are targeting the Marie Curie scholarship, you have to have like a good grade as well. But in the opening semester, don't like feel like burdened with the grade, no, because you still have like 3 more semesters to be able to build your grade as you want. So in the opening semester, don't really think too much about the grade. Of course, you have to think about it, but don't get bothered about it that much. So I think this is where I'm going to end for now. So this is just like a pretty overview of some of the things you are going to be coming across with as you prepare towards the opening semester in your respective mobility. So that's all, guys. So please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Good luck ahead. See you guys very soon.